health science again, but we're looking at it more from the perspective of students coming into Griffith from high school. So we're talking about programs with direct entry from high school options. For those of you who are not currently in high school, don't worry, there is still a lot of general information about health and about Griffith that will be very, very useful to you. And feel free, of course, along the way and at the end as well, to ask me questions in the chat. Okay, so I'll try to keep up with them, but otherwise I will definitely be here at the end to answer more questions. Okay, so let's get started with some general information about Griffith. So Griffith, you may not know, but Griffith is a pretty young university in the grand scheme of universities. It was founded in the 1970s, so compared to some universities, definitely young. But we are very highly ranked, and particularly so for a young university. So Griffith is actually ranked in the top 2% of universities in the world. So you can rest assured that you are getting a globally recognised degree when you come to Griffith. So we are a comprehensive university in terms of all the different program areas that we offer at Griffith. We do obviously have a very big focus on teaching, but we also balance that with a focus on research. So we are also a research-intensive university. So let's move on to the next slide. The other thing you need to know about Griffith is that we are very much kind of future focused. Being young, we are a very innovative university, and you will see that a lot, particularly throughout our programming. One of the kind of, I guess, foundation programs at Griffith is environmental science. So we are also very much interested in sustainability, and we try to practice that both inside and outside of the classroom as well. You will notice a huge industry kind of work-based component to all of the programs at Griffith as well. So we do have a 5-star rating for employability on the QS ranking, and yeah, you'll find that across all of the programs. Obviously in health science, it's particularly important because you will be doing, lots of clinical type of work, but you will see those work placement opportunities right across the board at Griffith. So as I mentioned, we are a young university, but we're also very ambitious. So you will find us on the QS top 50 universities under the age of 50. So as well as being in the top 2% of universities overall, we are also in the top 50 under the age of 50. So let's get into a bit of an overview of Griffith, and I'll give you some numbers to kind of give you a bit more of a sense of what Griffith is about. So Griffith actually has 5 physical campuses and 1 virtual campus. We have just over 50,000 students, which, can sound quite big and quite daunting, but do remember that that 50,000 is spread across those campuses. So I think Griffith is kind of the perfect mix of big university in terms of, facilities and broad range of programming, all that kind of stuff that you would expect from a big university. But at the same time, it's a very kind of personalized service. You'll find staff and professors very, very accessible. And there's a real vibrancy on campuses as well, which is really nice. So of our 50,000 students, almost 20% of those are international students from over 130 different nationalities. So we do have a really multicultural student base and staff as well. Our staff literally come from everywhere. So yeah, it's a really nice mix. And even our Australian students, of course, come from a wide variety of backgrounds, just like you would see in Canada. So we do have over 200 degrees. So as I said, we really are a comprehensive university, lots of different degree options across different areas. And we have about 200,000 plus graduates now. And many of those are from Canada, because we've been working in Canada since the early 2000s. So we've now graduated thousands of students from Canada, which is awesome. So just to give you an idea about where we are, Australia is a big country like Canada. So to give you a bit of perspective, we'll take a look at the map here. So you can see that we're up in the state of Queensland in the top right. So we have campuses based in both Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So Brisbane is the capital city of the state, and the Gold Coast is another city about an hour away. So if you look at under the Brisbane location there on the left, we have the Nathan campus, which is our original campus, used to be the biggest until very recently. Mount Gravatt, which is literally across the road from Nathan. South Bank, which is definitely our creative arts hub, and Logan. So those guys are all in Brisbane. And then we have the Gold Coast campus and our digital campus as well. So life in Queensland is pretty good. Not going to lie, over 300 days of sunshine a year, which is amazing. Especially sometimes, you know, when you go through the Canadian winters and you don't see any sunshine for a while, it gets a bit sad, but you definitely won't have that problem in Queensland. And winter, you know, for a Canadian, winter in Southeast Queensland is pretty much non-existent. So that's good news for those of you who are chasing the sun and really love summer. So these stats are slightly out of date. So Brisbane's population is closer to 2.5 million now. And then Gold Coast is around about 600,000. Just keep in mind that although, you know, obviously that's quite a difference in population sizes, keep in mind that Brisbane and the Gold Coast are only an hour from each other. And the Gold Coast is also a tourism hub. So you will get a lot of people coming in throughout the year. Obviously not right now, but normally lots of tourists, lots of domestic and international tourists. So I just want to give you a bit of a look at the campus here and look at it in comparison to Surfers Paradise, which is probably the best known part of the Gold Coast. So you'll see Surfers there in the background. And obviously here in the foreground is the Gold Coast campus, which is located in the suburb of Southport. It's really easy to get around. So even if you don't want to live you know, on campus, or you don't want to live in the same suburb as the campus, there are buses, there's a tram. If you take the G-Link tram, which basically links all of the suburbs along the Gold Coast, if you were living in Surfers Paradise and wanted to come out to the Gold Coast campus, it would take you about 20 minutes by tram. So really convenient. And you'll see here, because we're talking about health today, I just want to point out the Griffith Health Centre down here, which is where all of our health students start off, and the Gold Coast University Hospital, and we also have a private hospital here as well. So everything you need pretty much as a health sciences student is right here on campus. Yeah, I told you, life is good on the Gold Coast. All right, let's have a quick look at Brisbane, because some of the health sciences programs are also offered in Brisbane. Now, this is downtown Brisbane, and of course, this is where the South Bank campus is. Obviously, that's a creative arts campus, as I mentioned, but I do want to point this out because sometimes students will study at the Nathan campus, but will want to live downtown. And you can live downtown. You can see here student one accommodation is highlighted, and it is one of our preferred accommodation partners, which is listed on our website, by the way. So yeah, there's, you know, again, you don't have to live in the suburb of Nathan. You don't even have to live close by. If you want to live right downtown and just come out by bus, which is normally what you do coming out to Nathan campus, you can totally do that. And that's, again, probably like a 20, 25-minute bus ride. And here is Nathan campus in all its green glory. So you can see it is surrounded by trees, and that is because both Nathan and also Mount Gravatt, the one that's across the road, they are actually located in a national park. So pretty cool. Lots of, interesting animals around, including koalas. Sometimes my colleagues will take pictures out of their office windows showing koalas up in the trees. So yeah, if you want to have a full-on Australian experience, that's definitely a great campus to be at. And although we do not have the Gold Coast, we don't have the same kind of beaches in Brisbane, we do have a man-made beach, which is, again, right downtown, right near our South Bank campus. So yeah, this is a really nice place to head on the weekends or after study. Okay, so let's move on to talking a little bit more about academics. Let's talk about the academic calendar at Griffith. So we now run on a trimester system at Griffith. So these are the dates you can see here for 2021. So for most of our health science programs, you would be looking to start in trimester 1. Some of them do have an intake for trimester 2 as well. But this basically is how it runs. So in Australia, the academic calendar runs on a calendar year. So if you look at trimester 1, you'll see orientation normally runs towards the end of February. And then for next year, we'll have our teaching from March through to the end of May, exams in June, then you'll have a break. Normally about a 3, sometimes 4-week break, just depending on how long your exams go. Trimester 2 runs from July to October, and then trimester 3 normally runs from October through to February. Trimester 3 is not compulsory for anybody. It is one that sometimes gives flexibility to students. So in some of your programs, you would be given the option to fast track. So if you wanted to pick up even a whole trimester, but even you could do perhaps some part-time subjects. If you wanted to pick up a couple of subjects in trimester 3, you can absolutely do that. It depends on the program. I will say the health science programs are a little less flexible in that way than some other programs. But again, it kind of depends on the program you do. If you come in direct entry from high school for medicine, you will definitely be working in trimester 3 because that's the way we can get you through that program faster. So anyway, this gives you a bit of an idea of what the trimesters look like. So let's talk about health science. We do have a big range of health sciences available to students at Griffith. So I'm not going to talk about every single program today. I'm going to touch on the main programs, the ones that we usually have students from Canada interested in. But yeah, there are lots more, and I'll show you in a moment the different study areas that are available to you within health sciences at Griffith. And that will give you a better idea of all the different program areas that you could look at. Yeah, so here you go here. So obviously today we're going to talk about things like pharmacy, medicine, dentistry, physio, but yeah, there is a lot more as well. So if you do happen to want any information on potential direct entry programs for these areas, other areas, please just let me know or let the staff at KOM know, and we'll get some more information out to you. Okay, so to start off, to give you a bit of an introduction to health, I'm just going to play you a little video, a bit of an overview.
Griffith Health is not in the business of standing still. The medical and allied health environments are constantly changing.
The students at Griffith University get hands-on in clinical and research level equipment in their undergraduate training, and this is almost unique.
Our curriculum is evidence-based, is research-informed, and is cutting-edge.
Facilities at Griffith are state-of-the-art. That makes for a better experience.
This filters through to what we do here in the research labs, where we've got extremely high-end equipment
But one thing that the students have in common is their need to participate in our Foundation Health Year, where we have our baseline subjects that we can give them a strong foundation.
Because it's such a large tertiary facility, we see such a wide variety of cases, and it's very broad experience in the types of emergency presentations.
It's really interesting working with the doctors and the pharmacy students, the physios and the exercise physios, all that sort of holistic health. It's not just the one component.
Studying at Griffith, where I know dietitians, I know pharmacists that study there as well, it makes it much more pleasant and much easier to collaborate with them, all for the benefit of the patient.
Because in the health sector of the future, the ability to work in a team-based environment, spanning and crossing disciplinary boundaries, is going to be absolutely critical to delivery of healthcare. But the other thing that we have here at Griffith is that we're well connected and co-located with a major hospital.
Integration of knowledge between being taught in the classroom setting and then applying that knowledge right away into a practical setting.
We have that really unique link of being able to bring clinician and the student close together.
Access and work with practitioners in state-of-the-art facilities that really develop their learning in an applied setting.
They don't just provide us with academic support, they also provide us with life advices for us to grow as a person in future.
It was hard work, but it all paid off. It was a great experience at Griffith.
They definitely need to be motivated and committed.
Who knows, I might go back to university and specialise at a later stage.
I chose Griffith mainly because it's very multicultural, but generally I love the people here, and I would never choose any other university other than Griffith.
Okay, so we're going to jump back to the presentation. If you have any troubles seeing the presentation, you may want to refresh your browser. Sometimes it gets stuck on the video. Okay, so we're going to start off with the Bachelor of Physiotherapy. So we used to have a Master of Physiotherapy so that students from Canada could only enter after having done an undergraduate degree in Canada. That's no longer the case. So we have the Bachelor, which is a 4-year program, direct entry from high school. Our fees for this year for this program are $43,000 per year. And again, this is a trimester 1 or February start, including for next year. And this is one of those programs that's offered at both the Gold Coast and the Nathan campuses. So you do have that choice of living at the Gold Coast or in Brisbane. Now, one of the best things about this program is that it has a rolling admissions process. So that means that there's no deadline for this program. So essentially, once you've got your transcripts and you're ready to submit your application, you can. If you meet the requirements and they have a place, they will offer you that place immediately. So it's not that situation where you have to wait and wait and wait until the deadline passes. Basically with this one, if you have the results and you're an early bird, you'll get an offer, okay? So for this one, you need to have about an average, 90% average in your year 12 grades. Again, for Ontario, we're looking at the best 6 year 12 subjects. And then for the other provinces, we'll look at all the subjects that you studied in year 12. The only hard prerequisite for physio is English, but they do assume that you have some knowledge of like a high level math, like a pre-calc, calculus, algebra, something like that, or one of the sciences. Can be chem, bio, or physics, doesn't matter. Now, this program is super in demand, super high demand, super competitive, so you cannot defer your offer. If you get offered into this program, you have to take it. If you can't take it for whatever reason, you will have to reapply, okay? So just something to keep in mind. In terms of returning to Canada, it's pretty straightforward with physio. You just have to undertake a theory and prac exam. And sometimes, I think depending on the province, you'll have to take a Canadian context. Sorry, I just noticed the typo there. A Canadian context course as well. So why Griffith for physio? Clinical experience starts from year 1, which is not always the case with physio programs. As with pretty much all health sciences programs at Griffith, it's very hands-on. There's very much a problem-based and a group kind of learning approach at Griffith. And you really get a wide variety of clinical placements with physio, which is great. So you'll see a lot of different types of patients and a lot of different types of contexts. Pharmacy is another option that you have to come into direct from high school. So again, this is a 4-year program. With pharmacy, I just made a note there as well, just because I know there are a couple of you in here who are not coming direct from high school. If you are not coming from high school for pharmacy and you've already done undergrad in Canada, you can apply for credit. So you might get up to a full year's credit into this program. For high school students, probably not unless you've done IB. So there are some IB subjects that we will give you credit for into any of our health science programs. So there's more information on that on the website. If you have trouble finding it, again, feel free to contact me or KOM and we can send you the link for that. So this program is $33,000 per year. And this one has 2 intakes. So it's either a trimester 1 in February or a trimester 2 in July. Okay, pharmacy is a little different to physio in that it is only offered at the Gold Coast campus. And no quota places on this one. So some of our health science programs do have quota places for international students, just because we just don't have any more spaces. So with something like dentistry, for example, you have to have a certain number of clinical chairs for students to be able to use. So we don't have that issue with pharmacy. So no quota for international students on this one, which means, again, we don't have to drive the GPA super high because we don't need to kind of, narrow the pool. So for this one, you're looking at an average 76% or better in your year 12 grades. Same as before, best 6 in Ontario. Everywhere else, we look at all of your year 12 study. Again, the only hard prerequisite is English, but if you've got some higher level math or science as well, that's great. That will only help you in the program. So the option with this program, if you want to, after you finish the 4 years, if you want to register in Australia, what you would do is continue on and do a 48-week paid internship. So that would give you basically eligibility to register in Australia as a pharmacist. So you could do that and then go back to Canada and register and have both registrations. Or you could look at just coming straight back to Canada. Totally up to you. There are lots, and I can't stress this enough with pharmacy, there are so many great job prospects. And I think a lot of people kind of get bogged down with the idea with pharmacy that, oh, I'm going to be a pharmacist at, Shoppers or Rexall or whatever. And that's it. That's what I'm going to do with my pharmacy degree. And of course, that is one of the options. But there are tons of other things that you can do with pharmacy, biotech, cosmeceuticals, food, agriculture. You can become an academic. You can work for the government and kind of look at regulation and policy. So many different things you can do with a pharmacy degree. So I just wanted to stress that. If you do look at returning to Canada, obviously requirements change quite a bit depending on province. But usually what you do is an exam and a practical training plus an internship. Again, the practical training is not required in all provinces. So I really encourage you to check with your provincial bodies about any of this. If you're looking at any programs outside of the province that you live in, please check with the bodies in your province to make sure that anything that you do, will get you registered when you come back. Again, why Griffith with pharmacy? Something that we do that I don't think I've ever heard of with another program is we do offer you an intro to pharma course as part of your first year courses for pharmacy. So this is basically a course where they talk a lot about, you know, career prospects, you know, how to run a business, all that kind of stuff that, you know, is totally away from the science of pharmacy, but is really practical, and the type of information that you need when you're, you know, graduating, for sure. So there's a lot of talk about, yeah, what happens after graduation. There's also opportunities for mentorship as well. So, and that pretty much is across the board at Griffith. Lots of opportunities, you know, to get a mentor, and to kind of, you know, start somehow integrating yourself into industry before you even finish. Again, very interdisciplinary and hands-on. You'll notice this is a continuing trend with all of our programs, because that is how we run health sciences at Griffith. Interdisciplinary too. So, you know, when you're running through simulation work before you even get out into a hospital or a clinic, you will run through a lot of simulations where we bring in actors to play your patients. And you'll be doing that not just with pharmacy students, but it'll be, you know, pharmacy student, you know, medical student, nursing student, you know, maybe a physio student. So there'll be a bunch of different people involved in that scenario, just like it would be out in a clinic or a hospital setting. So we really try to prepare you for that type of setting from the get-go, so that when you actually get out into your real world experience, it doesn't feel so strange and new. You can kind of settle in straight away and go. Again, Griffith is really well known for its virtual and simulated learning, and pharmacy is a great example of that. So we do a lot of virtual pharmacy activities as well. So because it's not always possible to take, you know, a whole class into a pharmacy all the time, what they actually do is they have access to basically looking into a pharmacy. So it's like a virtual pharmacy that gets projected on all the walls of the classroom. And so, yeah, you can actually walk around with your, you know, virtual headset on and go and, you know, pick up packets of medication and, you know, have a look at instructions and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's really a very cool way of learning, and you'll find that a lot at Griffith. So another one I wanted to mention that perhaps not many of you have thought about before is the Bachelor of Medical Laboratory Science. Again, it's another 4-year degree. It's about $32,500 per year, and it has 2 intakes a year. So again, trimester 1 or trimester 2, and it's offered on the Gold Coast campus. This program also runs on a rolling admissions process, and there are no quota places for international students, which is great news, because the minimum for this program is, you know, pretty low for a health sciences program, and that's because we do have a lot of places open to students, so we don't have to push that GPA up. So minimum, again, 60% across your year 12 grades. No hard prerequisite other than English, but they do assume you have some math or science background. The great thing about this program that I think a lot of students don't know is 75%, sorry, of our students actually have a job before they even graduate. So these graduates are so in demand. Basically, they have companies and government, all different kinds of organizations courting them before they've even graduated. So yeah, that could be private labs, government labs, commercial. You know, you could be working on kind of veterinary type lab work, you know, forensic, food, cosmeceutical again, all of that kind of stuff. So the work for medical lab graduates basically involves diagnostic testing, you know, mostly on blood and tissue. But you will also be recommending treatment, also managing clinical trials as well. So that can be really exciting. we do a lot of clinical trials at Griffith, and yeah, we're always working towards like a cure or a vaccine or something. We're working on things for COVID-19. We're currently in trials right now for testing a malaria drug as well. So yeah, there's always something exciting going on in this area. Again, as with all the health sciences programs, very interdisciplinary, very hands-on. Also, the interesting thing with this program is from the second year, you'll actually be able to undertake courses in specialized areas. So you'll learn about, particular like body functions, under disease conditions. There are also more than 400 hours of lab experience and at least 400 hours of clinical experience in this program. So it is very hands-on. It is very much in the lab, in the clinic for a lot of the time. Okay, let's move on to dentistry. So dentistry is, you'll find dentistry programs at Australian universities kind of structured in all different ways. We actually have the structure where we have the undergrad, so the Bachelor of Dental Health Science, plus the 2-year Master of Dentistry. And that structure allows you to meet requirements to become a dentist, both in Australia and back here in Canada as well. The reason we structured our program this way was basically so that we could accept students direct from high school. Most Australian students coming into dentistry will be coming direct from high school. Of course, we have some that also graduate from other programs and then come in. But yeah, you certainly, that's the big thing I guess I should stress with you, is that most Australian students will be coming into health science programs direct from high school. So you don't have to feel like you'll be alone in that situation. You're not going to be the youngest person in the room, let's just say, because this is an absolutely normal situation in Australia. This is normally how students come into health science programs. So obviously with the combined program, it's a 5-year, you're looking at a 5-year duration altogether. Fees for this program will change a little bit from the beginning to the end. So for the bachelor's degree, you're looking at about $53,000 per year. Once you get to the master's program, it jumps up, obviously being a postgraduate program, jumps up to $79,500. And this intake is always trimester 1, only has 1 intake per year. It's only offered on the Gold Coast. I did say January there. I actually don't know why. That should actually be February. So it's always, trimester 1, sorry, always starts in February. So there is an application deadline on this one. So applications, if you're looking for a 2021 start, applications close in August. Okay, August 27 this year. Okay, so with these no, actually that's not true. Only dentistry, really, you have to be thinking quite far ahead because of the deadline. All of the others are on a rolling admissions process, so first in, first served. So again, I talked before about, how certain programs we can only have so many students in because of equipment. Dentistry is a great example of that. So we have a 90-chair clinic at Griffith. So about 25 of those places normally go to international students, which is quite good. That's a pretty good ratio compared to other programs. That's almost 30%. So good news for you. Not so good news coming from high school is that the GPA minimum for dentistry is 94%. Okay, so again, 94% in year 12. The unfortunate thing is that 94% is no longer really competitive. It's the absolute minimum. So if anybody submitted an application for some reason without a 94, we wouldn't even look at it. 94, we do, add you to the list. But unfortunately, just because of the sheer demand coming from outside of Australia for dentistry, we have to increase what the kind of competitive average is. So to really be competitive now for dentistry, you probably want to be at least a 96. Yeah, if you can get any higher than that, obviously the better. But yeah, that's the reality of the situation with dentistry, unfortunately. The good news is you're not competing against domestic students for those places, but you are competing against obviously lots of other Canadians, because every Canadian, it feels like, is trying to get into dentistry, and also students from other countries. We also have a lot of students from the US, Singapore, Malaysia, China, also trying to get in. The good news though is that Canadians will take up the bulk of those places. So Canadians are pretty academically competitive. So generally you have a good spot of getting, a good chance of getting a spot. So again, in terms of subject prerequisites, English is the only hard prerequisite. And then of course they assume that you have some background in math and science for dentistry. This is another program where you cannot defer an offer, just because, yeah, it's insane. Like the demand is so crazy that if you don't get, if you don't take the offer, then, you just have to reapply pretty much for the next year. They can't hold your place. Also because of the way that you have to move through as a cohort because of the dental chairs and so on. They can't hold places. So I've just got a couple of questions here about the GPA requirement for dentistry for university students. Yeah, so that's one of the good pieces of news for students who've already completed an undergrad, is that your GPA is quite a bit lower because your program is kind of what we kind of consider to be higher ranking. So the higher ranking your program is, the lower the GPA requirement. So coming from high school, you need a minimum 94, really high. Once you move into undergraduate, you've completed kind of a higher level program. Therefore, the GPA requirement goes down. So again, like the minimum for dentistry for students who've done an undergrad, the minimum is really 76. It's not competitive, excuse me. Allergies are taking my voice away. So not competitive really at 76. So if you want to be competitive coming out of an undergrad, you really want to be in the 80s, like mid 80s or better. That's what you need to aim for. Returning to Canada with dentistry is super easy. There is an agreement between the Australian body and the Canadian body. So you guys just come back and take the National Dentistry exam the same as everybody who's graduated from dental school in Canada. There's absolutely no difference. Also, you all have the same names. So regardless of the type of program that you do, whether you do, like our program is a bachelor plus a master's, or if you do a doctor of dentistry, at the end of them all, once you pass that exam, you are able to call yourself a doctor of dentistry. So it makes no difference what the program names are. At the end of the day, for registration purposes, you are all the same. So it's cut off a bit of my slide here. Sorry about that. But this, yeah, why Griffith? Obviously, pretty much the same reasons we've talked about before. Definitely state-of-the-art facilities. I don't know if I mentioned that when we talked about the health centre building on the Gold Coast campus, but it was built in 2012. The university put a lot of money into it. They went to health sciences professors and asked them, if they could teach their program in any way, what would that look like? And that's basically how they've built the facilities. So yeah, it's a very impressive facility. There's also a really high degree of supervision in the dental clinics. So normally you would be working with a partner. So from second year in dentistry, you get partnered up with another student. And so you'll always be either the lead or the assistant on every case in the clinics. And that's awesome too, because that gives you pretty much double the clinical time of a lot of other programs. But at the same time, your professors are there. So I think there's normally a professor for about every 4 patients. So you do have someone really closely monitoring what you do once you start touching patients. So we make sure we don't throw you in the deep end without any help. Just got a couple of questions here on the side. So Luca's just asking, is the GPA average based on the top 4 in BC or all? So Luca, the 4 for BC is the absolute minimum number of courses that we would assess on. So you have to have at least 4 courses. But if you do more in BC, and same with Alberta, we will assess on everything. Everything that you do in year 12 will count. So we just got another question. Does the application process consist of an interview? No. This is one of the best things about coming in as an undergrad for all of these health science programs. It is purely GPA based. Okay, so you have the disadvantage in that you have to have a super high GPA, but there is no admissions test like the DAT. There's no interview, there's no personal essay, no references, nothing. All GPA. Okay, so if you have the academic merit to get in, then you've got a great chance of getting in. So it's very transparent. It's not subjective in that way. So you don't have to worry about, I guess, what somebody else's opinion is of you. It's purely based on merit. Okay, let's turn to medicine. So medicine is another option that you have to come into directly from high school. It will take you a little longer, obviously. So students who have already done an undergraduate degree will go straight into the Doctor of Medicine. Whereas if you're coming in from high school, you'll be on a pathway. So you'll do the Bachelor of Medical Science, which we do in 2 years. It's actually a 3-year program, but we accelerate it because of our trimester system. So you'll be done in 2 years and then you'll pathway into the Doctor of Medicine. So trimester 3 is compulsory in this case. So you will have, a couple of short breaks throughout the year, but you won't have the big trimester 3 break. So that's kind of like the summer holiday, the Christmas time. You're not going to have that huge break because you're going to continue working to get through the first part of the medical program. So in terms of fees, for this program, you're looking at $32,500 for that first 3-year condensed into 2-year Bachelor of Medical Science. So total for that program is about $97,500. And then by the time you add the MD program, comes out to, about $370,000. Now, again, this is only a trimester 1 intake program. We do have seats for this program both at the Gold Coast and the Nathan campus in Brisbane as well. Again, different to dentistry, but same as, physio and pharmacy. There is no hard deadline for admission to this program. So purely rolling admissions. So again, as soon as you've got your transcript, make sure you submit your application because if you meet the minimum requirement and there's a place, we'll offer you a place straight away. So we have about 20 places for this program. Normally it's split between the Gold Coast and Nathan campus. So you may, you can put Gold Coast as your preference for medicine, and then, just have Nathan as your second choice, and we'll offer you whatever we have at the time. So some of you may end up starting medicine in Brisbane, but then when you go into the Doctor of Medicine program, you will be all at the Gold Coast. So again, entry requirement is purely based on GPA. So we're looking again for a 94 average. The difference here is that a 94 for medicine will likely actually get you in, unlike dentistry where you really have to try and push higher than that. So again, if you've got the 94, you've got your transcript, we've got a place for you, we will offer you as soon as we receive your application. Again, English is now the only hard subject prerequisite. So we assume that you have knowledge of maths and science and a science, but not a hard prerequisite in that regard. The other thing to consider, and I sometimes get this question from Canadian students, what if I started another health program or another program at Griffith and then transferred into medicine? No, you can't do that. So if you started another program and you decided you wanted to do medicine, you can apply for it, but you'd have to wait until you finish your undergrad and go and apply for the Doctor of Medicine. There's no way to apply for the Bachelor of Medical Science as an internal transfer. Also, if you've done some other study after high school, you can't come into the Bachelor of Medical Science. This is purely for students coming straight out of high school. That's it. So basically, once you come into the Bachelor of Medical Science, once you're successful with that, we will be holding your place in the Doctor of Medicine. So once you're in on that undergraduate pathway, there's no more competition. The only thing we ask you to do is please hold your GPA at least 5 out of 7, which shouldn't be too hard for anybody coming in out of high school with the high GPA requirement. So, you know, it's like a B+ average, shouldn't be too hard to do. And make sure that you pass the human skills course. So there's a human skills course that everybody has to do in the undergrad medical program, and you just have to pass that. We've honestly had no Canadians ever fail it, so I don't think that's a big concern. Just make sure you pass it. Just got a question from Jessica here. If you submit an application for medicine or dentistry early, would you hear back earlier? So Jessica, for dentistry, they never look at the applications until the deadline has passed. So you definitely would not hear back until after that August deadline. So there's no disadvantage to applying early, but there's no advantage either with dentistry. With medicine, if you're coming straight out of high school, as I said, as soon as you've got your transcripts and you're ready to submit an application, definitely do that, because they will just fill the places as people come in with the minimum requirements. They will offer. Postgraduate medicine is a different story. Again, Doctor of Medicine will actually have a specific deadline. So sometimes, that's not quite true. Sometimes, because they also offer interviews earlier, sometimes for the Doctor of Medicine, you may get an early offer for Doctor of Medicine. But again, for undergrad medicine, coming into the Bachelor of Medical Science, it is purely a rolling admissions process. So the earlier the better to try and secure a place. Yeah, and so this is the Doctor of Medicine program you would then go on to after you finished your Bachelor of Medical Science. So again, 4-year program. And this one actually does start in January. So it's trimester 1 start, but it's slightly early for the Doctor of Medicine students, just because they usually have some different kind of orientation activities and so on to get through. I think in terms of why Griffith, I think, yeah, this is just true, you know, for all health programs, same kind of things. Great facilities, interdisciplinary program, very innovative, you know, lots of simulated activities. But there are a couple of other things that set medicine apart from other universities. There's a really big focus on the human part of medicine at Griffith. So particularly for MD students, we do have an interview, and that's because we're looking for students who are well-rounded, not just book smart. We want people who know how to communicate with people as well. And there's an international lead as well. So there's somebody who really takes care of the international cohort within the bigger cohort for medicine. So there's always someone kind of looking out for you, checking in on you, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a nice thing to have. And I think we've pretty much gone over all of this all of this stuff. The only thing I do want to mention again is that Griffith is a world leader in the extensive use of simulated activities. So again, you'll do lots of simulated activities before you actually get to be around real humans. Lots of problem-based learning, lots of group work, and definitely interdisciplinary as well. So same, we talked about pharmacy and physio. Medical students will be involved in all of that kind of simulated group work as well. And this is the big health centre on the Gold Coast campus. So some of you will be here for undergrad. Others of you may come in for postgrad for something like Doctor of Medicine. But yeah, it's a really impressive facility. And I guess one of the other questions that I sometimes hear is, why would I want to study health in Australia? Obviously for Canadians, a lot of it is about demand. If there are no places here, then you're obviously looking for other options. I think, again, like the presentation today, the fact that we've focused on direct entry from high school is another huge advantage to those of you who are coming out of high school. You could finish your program in Australia much faster than you could do in Canada, just because of the fact that we do offer direct entry from high school. You know, health science graduates are really well regarded in Canada and elsewhere in the world. So the transition back here is really easy. And we'll talk a little bit in a moment about the strong graduate outcomes, but there are amazing graduate outcomes for health science students. The other thing I do want to mention is the post-study work permit. That is one of the things that makes Australia unique. So once you finish at least a 2-year program in Australia, you are eligible for a 2-year post-study work permit. If you study at the Gold Coast for at least 2 years, you are eligible for a 3-year post-study work permit. So that's great, because when you finish your program, if you want to do, for example, with pharmacy, if you want to do that internship in Australia to get registration in Australia, you can stay and do that. If you want to do residency after medicine, you have the opportunity to stay and do that, you know, or anything else. If you get a job opportunity, like we were talking about with medical lab science, you know, there will be people offering you jobs before you even finish. So you do have that option to stay and work. And then, of course, after that, you know, you'll have perhaps opportunities to extend your work visa or apply for permanent residency, all of that kind of stuff. So this is what I was talking about in terms of graduate outcomes. So you'll see here, these are the top 5 professions in Australia for full-time employment within 4 months of graduation. So pharmacy is up the top there, and that's because I know I hear from a lot of Canadians that there aren't a lot of jobs in pharmacy in Canada, but I think that's because people are looking too narrowly at what job opportunities are available for pharmacy grads. You know, as we talked about, it's not just, you know, working at a pharmacy counter at Shoppers. There are tons of other opportunities for pharmacy grads. So that's why they are the top in terms of graduate outcomes. Medicine, not far behind that. The rehab sciences like physio, again, number 3, then dentistry, and then vet science, which doesn't apply to us because we don't have vet science at Griffith. But yeah, this is kind of a good indicator that will, yeah, hopefully give you some sort of assurances and some confidence about the programs that you're looking to pursue. Yeah, and again, this is really for all programs. I know I've gone on about it a lot for pharmacy, but yeah, there's just, you know, when you finish your program, there are just so many different opportunities for you work-wise. It's not just about, you know, being at the counter or being in the clinic. Lots of different opportunities here. Now, in terms of applying for any of these programs, It's pretty straightforward. If you're on this webinar, you are already in contact with KOM. So I would definitely recommend applying through KOM. They're super helpful. They just make the process so much more streamlined. We've been working with them for a really long time, so they're really familiar with all Griffith programs, entry requirements, all of that kind of stuff. So definitely contact the staff at KOM for more help with your application. I should also mention, if you apply through KOM, you avoid paying the Griffith application fee, but you also don't pay KOM anything either. So it's just a completely free service that we offer to students. Okay. Now, finance. Sorry, this slide's gone a bit wonky. Finance obviously is a really important consideration. Health science programs are generally pretty expensive. We acknowledge that. They're expensive programs to teach. Fortunately, there are lots of different ways that you can finance your study. So obviously Griffith offers quite a range of scholarships, particularly for health science students. So most of them are based on academic excellence, which is also great news for health science students because you guys generally have super high GPAs. So that puts you in a really good position in terms of scholarships. We also do sometimes have family scholarships. So if you already have like a brother or sister, for example, studying with Griffith, you will get a discount on your fees. But basically, if you look at I've just put the scholarships link down there to the right. If you look at this link, you'll actually see that you can search your scholarships. Basically, you can look by nationality, by study area, by program level, even by commencing or continuing students. So there's lots of different ways to look for those scholarships, and you'll be able to see what you're eligible for. When you pull down the list of scholarships, it will also show you which trimesters they're available, what the deadline is for those trimesters, and then it'll give you details on how to apply. Generally, the application process is really straightforward. It's mostly just answering questions in an application form, and they will get your transcripts from admissions if they need to confirm your GPA and that kind of thing. So it's pretty straightforward. I should also mention for the programs that are T2 intake, so for trimester 2 and I believe for trimester 3 as well, Griffith is actually offering a 20% scholarship to all students, commencing and continuing students, which is great news for everybody. So that's something to keep in mind as well if you're interested in a program that does have a trimester 2 start. The other thing with finance to keep in mind is that you can work in Australia on your student visa. So there is a work permit built in. So that will let you work about 40 hours per fortnight or per 2 weeks. And you can actually work full time, during any breaks. So for example, if you're not studying in trimester 3, you could actually work full time in that period if you wanted to. We will also, of course, accept financing through Canadian banks. So if you take out a Canadian bank loan or a line of credit, also provincial loans. So things like OSAP in Ontario, you can apply for international study. I know BC and Alberta also offer quite generous loans for international study. So all of that stuff can be combined to give you what you need to pay for your tuition and living costs in Australia. All of the big banks in Canada are very familiar with, studying in Australia, funding students who are coming for health science programs. So yeah, contact any of those. We hear a lot from CIBC. They seem to do a lot of promotion among students, but yeah, contact any of them for sure. Just a question here. If I were to apply individually, so I guess you mean without an education agent, would I require my school to contact, I guess you mean contact Griffith? We will take transcripts, basically directly from your school or verified copies. I think one of the advantages of applying through one of our education agents like KOM is that they can actually verify transcripts for you. So otherwise, if you send us a copy of your transcript, it has to be verified, and that means you have to, go and see generally a lawyer in Canada. So you're going to have to pay them to verify your transcripts. So that's another big advantage of applying through KOM to keep in mind. So just the other thing on finance that I wanted to mention was, when you're considering the cost of studying, don't forget that, it's more than your tuition fees. You've got visa application fees. So normally I think that runs about $600 at the moment. You'll also have your overseas student health cover. This is not a Griffith requirement. This is an Australian government requirement. All international students must take out health coverage. So basically, when you get an offer letter from Griffith, we will offer you the opportunity to get your health cover through us. We work with Allianz. You can also get it yourself, but you need to provide evidence of health cover when you accept your offer and pay your deposit. So it's very easy just to get it through Griffith, very straightforward. It'll be added to your tuition fees. Don't forget flights, of course, you have to get there. I should also mention in this case, obviously with COVID-19, international borders everywhere are closed. So if you are looking at a program that has a trimester 2 start, you can actually start online from Canada. So all of our programs will be going online for T2. Most of them are already online in the current trimester. But yeah, you can start in trimester 2 online, and then once borders open up, you'll be able to travel to Australia. We will be offering all of trimester 2 online, so you're not expected to start online and then suddenly, have to rearrange your life and travel down to Australia. No, you'll do all of T2 online, and then depending on your program, you may then come down for trimester 1 next year. So yeah, that's where we're currently at. I also just quickly want to mention accommodation. We do have accommodation on campus at Griffith. You'll see this picture here. This is from the Gold Coast campus. So there is that option. Just keep in mind with accommodation at Griffith, it isn't dormitory style, it's apartment style. So everybody has their own bedroom and you're just sharing kind of your living kitchen facilities. They are also all catered, self-catered, sorry. So you don't get any meal plans. You have to, go out and buy your food and cook it. Your kitchen will be equipped, or, eat out, meal service, whatever you want to do. But essentially we don't do meal plans at Griffith. And of course, the other option for accommodation is to live off campus. So as I mentioned before, we do have a number of preferred partners for each city listed on our website, and Student One is one of those. But you can also use these websites here to find accommodation, both if you're looking to rent a place, or if you're looking for somebody who's already got a place, but you just want to, share their house, rent the bedroom, whatever. So yeah, these sites are also the same sites that Australian students use. So not just for international students, anybody can use them. And we do offer free airport pickup for all our students as well. So it doesn't matter whether you are coming in from Brisbane Airport or the Gold Coast Airport. Either way, we'll take you to any of the campuses from those airports. Just be sure to book your airport pickup within 72 hours of your departure from Canada. There is a link here, so it takes you to a link on the website where you can fill out the registration form. But again, this information will be given to you when you accept your offer at Griffith. And I should mention life outside of the classroom as well. So there's a lot of student life going on campuses. As I mentioned, they're really, definitely very interesting and yeah, exciting kind of campuses to be around as a student. There's always something going on. Lots and lots of clubs and societies at Griffith. I think we've got over 150 different clubs available to you. A lot of them, are around sports and fitness. Australians are pretty sports crazy, but there's a lot of other stuff as well. We have clubs based around, religion, culture, food, pretty much anything you can think of. If you find that there's not a club that you're looking for, you can absolutely contact the Student Guild and talk to them about creating a new club. We welcome all those ideas. And this is actually the Gold Coast Aquatic Centre. So this just gives you an idea of the sporting facilities available. So this pool here was actually used for training before the last Commonwealth Games. So we had athletes actually staying near campus and they used this pool. You'll see in the building there, that's where all the gym equipment is. That's where we hold group fitness classes. At the moment, obviously it's closed with the current situation, but the centre is running all of their fitness classes online. So everybody can still stay fit, still stay sane, which is nice. This pool here is also used pretty much all year round, but particularly during orientation, they hold movie nights there. So they bring a big screen and hold an outdoor movie night, which is pretty cool. I want to mention the support at Griffith. This is one thing that I think is really important, is the layers upon layers upon layers of support at Griffith. So it's not just support, within your program or within your school. There's support, for international students. There's support for all students at Griffith. Many, many, many layers. So obviously there's the International Student Advisory, as is mentioned there on the slide. They are there particularly to take care of international students and all the different issues that you may have that are different to what domestic students are facing. There's also general student services for all students. We can obviously, take care of your health and well-being. So, physical and mental health obviously are very important. So we do have a lot of services around those, including counselling services. We have doctor, nurse, psychiatrist, all available on campus as well. Also, if you have any kind of disability, like a learning issue, any kind of physical disability and so on, we can accommodate you with that as well. So just let us know, or if you're applying through KOM, just let them know that you have something that needs to be accommodated, and we'll start working on that before you get to campus. So peer support is a big part of the support that's available at Griffith, and the Griffith Mates are a really good example of that. So the Griffith Mates are a group of students, both domestic and international, who've been at Griffith for at least a year, and they basically organise a ton of different activities all throughout the year. They're very active, obviously, during orientation periods, but yeah, all through the year. It's just a great way. I think it's a great first step outside of your program orientation to make friends, to start meeting people, and to meet, lots of Aussie students, but also students who are international like you, suffering a lot of the same issues, or, just going through the same stuff. They run lots of free activities and events, which is great. And if you're interested in volunteering at all, they do a lot of kind of environmental volunteering, so beach care, bush care, that kind of thing. And aside from, meeting the whole group and having that sort of built-in group of friends, they also have an internationals buddy program. So you can actually be paired up with another student to kind of, show you the ropes on campus. So I just want to show you a general video of Griffith, just to give you an idea of the environment and what to expect on campus.
Peaceful walks in sunset talks, blissful explosion lights the sky. The moment of clarity is shut as glass. The beauty it draws me in. Love changes everything,
So that's pretty much the end of the presentation, everyone. So these are the ways that you can connect with Griffith. Obviously, Griffith is all over social media. There's also a bunch of other videos on YouTube that you can check out as well. So yeah, definitely some really good content there. If you're looking particularly to find out, more about the student experience and to, see students in action on campus and what student life is like. There's also a student blog on the website that you can have a look at for lots of stories of different students' experiences. There's pretty sure there's a number of Canadians on there, but yeah, students from all over. And I just want to leave you with my contact details as well. Obviously, I'm your closest contact because I'm based in Canada. So that's my email there on the screen. And yeah, you can call, text me, you can Skype me. I'm pretty much always on Skype every day. And again, if you want to see some more, just pictures and content from, the Gold Coast, Brisbane, different students, definitely follow me on Instagram, GriffithU_Justine. I pretty much update, very regularly. I'm probably on Instagram too much. But yeah, there's lots of good content there. And you can get a real feel for the environment, but also student experience. I'm following a lot of student accounts as well. So I post, what those guys are up to as well. So Barbara's just asking if we can go back to the accommodation links. I can, just a second. I think this is the one you were looking for. Yeah. So, so just remember too, this is all listed on the website. Email me if you can't find it. I will send it out to you. And also KOM does record these webinars. So if you need to see it again, contact KOM for a copy of the recording as well. So I'll just push back to my my contact details, just so you've got those in case you need to get in touch. But yeah, obviously any questions, you can contact me, you can contact the staff at KOM. They're super helpful, willing and ready to help. Does anybody have any other questions? So I don't see any questions coming through. So I guess we will leave it there for today. But again, contact me or KOM for help at any time if you think of anything later, which often happens after the webinar. Feel free to reach out at any time. So thank you again so much for your time. Really appreciate you being here. And Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.